Hi everyone, it's Billy Joe from the Peel Field Centers. I'm here in my backyard today. Today we are going to learn how to make paintbrushes out of natural materials. So I'm going to collect a bunch of things and then we're going to go ahead and do this. So it's great to look on the ground to find sticks that have already fallen off the trees that you can use as the handle for the paintbrush. I've collected many sticks from the ground and now I'm moving on to harvest some of the materials that are needed to make the bristles. This can be anything from grass to leaves on the trees to pine cones to really anything that you see that will be suitable for bristles. And it's really cool. You can get a little creative with this. Now I strongly encourage you to try and find plant material that's already fallen onto the ground and is already dead. However, this might not always be possible. And so we'll need to harvest some live plants. But this next part that I'm going to talk about is really important when harvesting live plants. When harvesting from nature, many Indigenous people will leave an offering of tobacco leaves. This is to show a sign of gratitude for everything that the earth provides all living things. Tobacco in its purest form is a medicine and is also, in some areas, considered one of the sacred plants. Many Indigenous cultures believe that everything in nature has spirit, everything from the rocks all the way up to the moon and the sun and everything in between, which is why it's so imperative to ask permission of those living things when harvesting. By asking permission and leaving a thank you, it shows respect and acknowledges that we are all connected. Here are some tips on the things that you can do while out harvesting. First of all, ask permission. Ask the plant if it's okay if you take some leaves. If it feels right, go ahead. If it feels wrong, then accept that as an answer that the plant is saying no thank you and move on to the next. Ways of saying thank you could be anything from saying thank you to a drink of water to laying down some freshly fertilized soil, or anything that you feel is an appropriate way of saying thank you. This information was gifted to me by Grumpy, or as many of us know him as, a Métis Moose Cree gentleman named Bill Morrison. Okay, so I'm back inside. I found some walnut shells on the ground that the squirrels have already enjoyed. I harvested a little bit of pine needles here, some grass, and then some weeds from my garden. And the interesting thing about weeds is weeds really get their name from humans because we think that they are an undesirable plant in our garden, when in reality, they're just a wildflower as well. So I've harvested just enough that I need, as well as I found all these sticks on the ground that I'll use for the handles. I'm going to use a little bit of Mod Podge. You can use any white glue, as well as some yarn. You just anything that you have, or string. And some people even use elastics. And last but not least, you'll need a pair of scissors as well. Okay, so I've started off by cutting a piece of yarn, maybe about 18 inches long. I'm going to dip one end of it just into my Mod Podge here, just so the end gets sort of a little bit of glue on it, just like that. Then I'm going to take my stick, my handle, and I'm going to start to sort of wrap that yarn around. The glue just helps give it a really nice seal, so I'm just going to wrap it around a few times there. And so you can actually just spin your handle right in your hands there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bundle of grass right here, and I'm going to lie that right around my handle. And again, the same thing, I'm going to take that yarn and I'm just going to really tightly wind it all the way around so that I've got a really, really good seal. And again, I can just start by twisting it and winding it all the way around. So you can use whatever color of yarn you want. You can use hemp, you can use string. I've seen elastics being used, lots of different materials. And so then when you get all the way down to sort of the end there, you're going to leave sort of a little bit of a string. You're going to make a little bit of a loop here and wrap it. And then you're just going to take that tail and you're just going to push it down through your loop and pull it nice and tight in a little slip knot. You're going to do that again. So again, wrapping it around your finger, wrap the tail around your handle, and then down through that loop. And you're going to pull it through.
just like that. And so now you have a little paintbrush. And so I'm going to use the same method for the pine needles and our wildflowers. And I'm going to actually use the walnuts as a stamp. So I'm not going to attach them to any stick.
Okay, so I'm back. I'm just using some folk art paint. I just chose black for today. And you'll need some kind of container to put your paint in, and then some paper that you can use. It's better to have something a little bit thicker that will be able to absorb the paint properly. So you're just gonna take your grass, just gonna dip right into the paint, get it all nice and covered, and then you can see that it's really cool to make sort of all these really awesome shapes with the paint. And you're going to get very different textures depending on what paintbrush you're going to be using. So you can also use them like a stamp as well. Use it sort of as shading around. And then our wildflowers, they're going to give a little bit of a softer feel just because of the texture. And again, there you go. And then if we just put a little bit more paint into our tray here, we can dip in those walnuts and we can give some stamps, which are pretty cool, depending on how far you go with it. There's also the really, really textured side, which I can sort of roll into the paint. And then there you go, see it's all coolly covered. And then we're going to sort of roll, and we can sort of make all these really cool shapes and patterns. And that's it. So that's all you need, just some quick nature materials from nature, and you're ready to go.